Alright guys, so here comes full-length video number 1 for a life of cerebral palsy. And today's subject, as I said in my Facebook post, is going to be what my idea of disability is and is not. Keep in mind that is my personal perspective living as a person with a disability. And then I'm also going to be talking about what my condition, cerebral palsy, is, everything that entails, and kind of the day-to-day complications that arise with that, and so on and so forth. So let's get started. So disability, right? Like, we think of that as this sort of inherently negative thing. As I said in my first video, it's sort of a detriment, something that really limits you in being able to pursue a normal quote-unquote life, right? But here's the thing, we all have limits. We all have things that we can and cannot do, challenges that we have to navigate around, adversity that we have to fight and persevere through. The difference is, when you're talking about someone who has a disability, a chronic condition, something that will not go away with medicine or time, the thing is that adversity, that obstacle is 24/7, right? So just imagine every day you wake up and you've got to jump a hurdle. Like, imagine a track star, you've got to jump a literal hurdle just to get your day started. That would be really difficult every single day, right? And would get really tiring and really mentally and physically and even emotionally exhausting, right? Okay, so that's what the premise of disability is to me. It's a constant obstacle, it's constant adversity. So realistically, all humans have limits, right? So your disability isn't necessarily going to limit you from doing what you want to do. It's going to limit the way in which you pursue what you want to do. I've been very fortunate, and I will not undersell that. I have been very, very fortunate. I'm a very lucky individual to be pursuing the things that I am. You know, not many people, if any, with cerebral palsy can say, hey, I want to become an EMT one day and get to do it. Not many people with cerebral palsy can say, hey, I want to be a firefighter, and are given the opportunity to pursue that passion. I'm very, very lucky in that aspect, and I will not take that for granted. But what I want to say to other members of the disabled community, or people who identify as disabled, having a disability, whatever, just because your disability may keep you from doing a very specific position you desire, it does not limit you from your true purpose, right? So I've discovered my true purpose in life. My true purpose in life is to help, is to make the world a better place. And I think that's because I was victimized for so long by the world that at one point I became a victim. I felt like I was never going to be anything more than I was. And I fought through that. So now my goal is to help other people fight through whatever it is they're going through in life. Whether it's a medical emergency, their house is on fire, they're depressed, they need some guidance in life, whatever it is, I'm going to do my best to help. That is my purpose. So to the rest of my community of people, I want to say to you, do not let an opportunity or a door that has been locked to you keep you from discovering your true purpose. Now, to my audience that does not have chronic conditions, doesn't necessarily have things that they consider to be disabilities or things that affect their day-to-day life, understand that a big role you can play in making people with disabilities feel better, more accepted, more quote-unquote normal, because we are a society that emphasizes normality, whatever that actually is. One thing that you can do to help is give people chances. If they have the potential physical capacity to do whatever it is that you need them to do, if they have the potential mental and emotional capacity to do whatever it is you would need them to do in a job, give them an opportunity, give them a chance to show that they can do it. And I'm going to give one person a big shout out here. My chief, my EMS chief, and my EMS assistant chief, as well as my fire chief and my assistant fire chief, have all been awesome in that aspect. All I asked for was a chance, and they gave it to me. So huge shout out to you guys. I can't tell you how much that means to me. So moving forward, let's talk about my condition, cerebral palsy, right? Okay, so I'm gonna break it down to you in terms of what the medical terminology actually means. Cerebral refers to the cerebellum, or specifically the cerebral cortex of the brain, right? Everything that has to do with coordination. Palsy in medical jargon literally means paralysis. So what cerebral palsy is there is a part of the cerebellum, a part of the cerebral cortex that does not function. It is dead. It is damaged. So essentially, even though all of my symptoms manifest physically, what I really have is brain damage. I don't have a physical disability. I have brain damage. So my brain has to work differently to navigate the same physical and coordination wise, whatever you want to call it, obstacles. And it takes me longer to do things. I have to figure out my way to do things because my body is not physically structured the same way as a quote unquote normal body. So my brain has to really work to figure things out. Now, because my body is physically different and because my brain has to work a lot harder to figure things out, I actually consume 3 times the amount of energy the average person, as in the average person who does not have cerebral palsy, consumes. Why is that? So I'm using more energy, which means I'm burning more calories, which means my muscles are working harder, my skeletal structure is working harder to maintain my muscles. Everything in my body is going at 3 times the rate of whatever it is that's going on with the quote-unquote average body, right? And so how does that affect my day-to-day life? Well, let me tell you some of the specifics about my actual physical impairments. So my left leg is 3 centimeters longer than my right leg, which is part of why I have a sort of gated limp. And then I also have a condition called hip dysplasia, which basically your hips in anatomical position should lay like this. Mine lay like this. So there is a dislocation to one of the sockets. And essentially what that causes is an exasperation of that already existing gait due to the difference in the length of my legs. Now, one other thing that I deal with is when I was younger, I would have spasms a lot. Fortunately, I had a surgery that has essentially rectified that, but I digress. So I would have spasms all the time, a lot of which were in my back. And your back, your spine itself, right, it flexes. So when your muscles in your back spasm, they push on your spine, right? So your spine, instead of breaking, like say your arm would, it's just gonna bend differently, right? So I also have lumbardoscoliosis. In other words, scoliosis that is localized to the lumbar region of my spine. Almost said cervical spine. That would have been incorrect. But yeah, so you know, essentially, I have to use my body's abnormalities to navigate the quote-unquote, once again, normal world. I know I keep saying that, but I hate the word normal because none of us really know what it actually means. But once again, I digress. So yeah, you know, I mean, imagine for me, right? I wake up every single morning and the first thing that I look at is my legs. I have muscle atrophy because my legs are not the primary supporting part of my body. Granted, my legs work just fine. I have one that works better than the other, but they work just fine. However, my upper body compensates for that. My shoulder strength, great. My tricep strength, solid. My core, solid. My pectoral muscles, pretty good. So I'm able to use my advantages in my upper body to compensate for what my lower body cannot do. Kind of the same way if you're in a traumatic experience, your body will compensate for whatever loss is occurring, right? It's realistically the same exact thing when you're talking about how disability sometimes compensates for certain things. And, it's just really important that you kind of think of those things when you're addressing someone with a disability, or when somebody with a disability is kind of talking to you about some things that they want to do. Maybe there is something they physically cannot do, but the reason that they want to do the thing, there is something else that kind of fits with them, right? So I think as good, moral people, we need to just give people more opportunity and understand that difference is normal. We don't know the actual definition of normal, but difference is normal. Difference is okay. And realistically, it's what makes us such a great society, such a great nation, is the fact that we're able to take all of these different groups of people, put them together, and somehow homogeneously work together to make the world a better place. So I know I've kind of gone on a tangent, and I apologize for that, but I get really passionate about this, especially around the subject of just talking about what disability is and isn't. I don't want this to be a super long video because I want you guys to be able to stay engaged and be really interested in what I'm talking about. So if there's anything that you want clarification on, or anything that you want me to discuss further, or anything I haven't discussed that you want to hear me talk about, please drop something in the comments. Let me know. It's going to be a huge help to me. And if you watch this video, please just take a second to hit the subscribe button. I really, really appreciate it. Y'all have an awesome day. Take it easy.